Tiny and Nate. I'm Tiny.
And I'm Nate, and today we're going to break down for you our very first wholesale deal. Tiny, this is going to be fun.
I'm stoked. Really, I am.
We got the family noises in the background.
That's right. Baby's screaming. We've got that count. How about that snow countdown? I was so excited, and it's my friggin' podcast. Is it going to start? Is it going to start?
Wait, when is it going to start? Is it in 30 seconds? No, 25 seconds.
Were you counting? I was counting.
I was counting deep down in my soul. All right, so let's do this. Let's do this. I'm so excited to break down our first deal, not because it was like genius or anything, but just because for me it was like, I don't know, the first time you do anything is kind of exciting, right? First kiss, first date, first kid.
There was so many nerves of like, okay, we're actually doing this. We've got a brand new business. We're going to wholesale a house, like an entire house, a piece of real estate.
Right.
This is for keeps. Oh my gosh. Like the nerves involved, I don't want to screw it up. I don't want to get it wrong.
Contracts.
So,
you say the wrong thing.
Yeah. This is like real property. This is a big deal. Like, don't screw it up. So all the fear.
Other people's lives, real people's lives.
Yeah. Their finances, all that stuff. So today I'm excited to interview you and kind of ask you, because this was your deal. I mean, you took this, you found it, you took it all the way to close, and I helped a little bit, but I'm curious kind of what was in your head, and I'm stoked to share with everybody else. We're not superhumans. Like we have the same fear. But what we're going to get to at the end of this, I'm really excited about kind of the secret, so to speak, of I think any real success. And it's not rocket science, but it is hard. So we're gonna talk about that later. But let's just dive right in. So how did you find this first deal? Tell us about it.
Right. The first deal. So I mean, we had a marketing budget, but the very first deal was a free lead. And I'm kind of loath to tell everybody because if I tell them where to get these free leads, they're going to go take them all. No, the reality is our very first deal came from the Facebook marketplace.
Oh no, and, Facebook.
Yeah. Facebook marketplace. And what it was once I knew we were going to get into real estate investing, I learned about wholesaling. I was watching all the YouTube videos, kind of binge watching it. And, I don't remember if somebody mentioned this or if it just occurred to me, but I went looking on the Facebook marketplace for rentals, and I found this really crappy looking house that somebody was trying to rent. Actually, the house wasn't all that crappy. It was broken apart a little bit, but what it was the photos were so poorly taken that triggered me in. And I was like, hey, I'm actually looking to buy a place instead of rent a place. Would you consider an offer? And that's when he pinged me back.
That's awesome. So I'm sure someone's like, Facebook Marketplace, you can wholesale deals on that? What? No, it's not a wholesale software. What you were doing, just to clarify, is you were using your skills of intuition and the subtle deep listening and going, okay, it makes sense that people who rent properties might be tired of those properties.
Right.
I'm going to see if
tired landlord.
Tired landlords. I'm going to see if I can find a tired landlord on this because it didn't cost us anything. There was zero marketing spend, right?
Exactly.
Just time, effort, and energy. Yep. And how many days did it take you to find that?
Oh, shoot. 1 maybe?
Yeah. I knew the answer to that, but it was like right away. I remember you calling me like, Daniel, I got one. I'm like, no, you don't. It was very fast. So when you did that, what was your next step? So you've got this property. Did you call him? Did you message him? What'd you do?
Yeah, so I just messaged him right inside of Facebook so he could see me. One of the things I like about Facebook Messenger and Facebook Marketplace is you see the person's profile if they've got public information up, so versus a cold call, right? That you're seeing the person's face, maybe their photos, maybe some family, whatever. And so it does feel a little bit more personal than say a cold call. But I messaged him. He said he would consider an offer, just kind of depends. He wasn't looking to buy it, but I could tell that the property itself was distressed and that he was probably under some stress again because of the quality of the photos and the unfinished nature of the house. Then we just exchanged phone numbers. I got on a call with him, briefly found out what was going on with the property, and we arranged to go out and meet at it. It's
Yep.
kind of out in towards the mountain up here where we
Mhm.
live, and
Mhm.
just went and met him out there.
Nice, nice. Yeah, I was actually talking to somebody today who does a lot of short-term rentals, and
Yeah.
they bought an off-market property, and similar way that they found this. I was like, man, you're not a wholesaler. How did you find this deal? He was like, well, I was actually just in a group, and I saw kind of an offhanded comment that someone had made about, oh man, if I got a price like that, I'd sell my place. And so I just followed up with them like, hey, what if I could get you a price like that? Would you sell it to me? And in 24
Yeah.
hours, he had a contract in hand.
Right.
When
Right.
so that was a learning lesson I took away from that is when someone's ready, they're ready.
Yeah.
Like don't sit back, speed to lead, right? We've known that for years, but that's something I think people watching this might find valuable is, well, how fast do you need to follow up? When do you know to call? Talk about that a little bit, being able to kind of feel out the temperature of when do I pursue, when do I put them on a follow up, when do I drive to their house right away.
Well, I
That
mean,
kind of
this
thing.
guy, he responded to my message and responded to my text, so it just made sense. But I think something you said there that I want to highlight is, there's this window of opportunity that opens
Mm-hmm.
occasionally. You've probably
Mm-hmm.
called if if you want to get into wholesaling, or if you've gotten into wholesaling and you tried either knocking on doors or driving for dollars or cold calling. The reality is you're going to talk with a lot of people who are not in the window of opportunity is not open for them. And so
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of the direct to seller techniques that wholesalers and real estate investors use these days, even realtors,
Mm-hmm.
it's dependent on a numbers game, but it's also dependent on can you find somebody who's in that window of opportunity? And this guy was like, he was a tired landlord. He was
Mm-hmm.
paying on this mortgage and it's sitting there and the house needs a lot of work. And so finding on market fixers and people that have listed tired landlords that have listed rentals, to me, is kind of a no brainer that this person is in the window of opportunity to do something with this property, right? They're motivated in
Yep.
some way.
Absolutely. And I mean, as we've continued, and done more than one deal now, that's a major list that we contact as tired landlords. People,
Right.
what is the specific people who owned a property more than 10 years? I think it is something like that.
I mean, they could be tired for all kinds of reasons, right?
Yeah, I just made the criteria, but yeah, you're totally right. Like the that window of pain or of opportunity, but when someone's in pain and has something that you can solve, like finding that
Right.
hungry crowd, right? Those people
Right.
who are ready
Right.
to be served in some way that you can fulfill on. That's key. That's awesome.
Well, right.
Go
And
ahead.
I want to add something to that. Finding out that like he was about to have a kid, he's got this extra mortgage over his
Right.
head. They had moved out of town, and so basically, for him to have cash in his pocket over and above the mortgage that he had, as he has a kid coming on,
Mm-hmm.
he's explicitly said he got like bombarded with people wanting to rent out there, but he didn't want to be a landlord. He didn't
Mm-hmm.
want to even reply
Mm-hmm.
and filter through all these people. So
Yep.
you're exactly right. Like he had a pain point that we were able to solve for him, and
Mm-hmm.
of course, it was beneficial to us and beneficial to our end buyer as well.
That's so true. So something I want to just celebrate about wholesaling and real estate in general that I think is lost on a lot of people who do real estate as like a licensee or a real estate agent is
Okay.
the variety of problems we can solve. Like as wholesalers and people with maybe creative finance or all these tools in our toolbox, we can solve so many problems if we have the variety of skill sets. So
Okay.
why that ties into what you just said is you dug really deep into what his pain points were. So if all he wanted to do was sell retail, like you couldn't necessarily help him the best. But he didn't want to be a landlord. He didn't want to, manage a property. You were finding out. This is what I'm trying to say in a very slow
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
It's
I get
so
you.
key. It's so key to dig deep and find what a win looks like for the owner, the
Right.
potential seller, right? Like what does success look like for them? Because you can assume and be wrong like 50% of the time. Sometimes you
True.
can get it
True.
right. But
Dude,
so
that's
often
so
when you
true.
dig, it's like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize that would be a win for you. So ask.
That's right. That's right. And dude, you should have seen me. I mean, talking about nerves at the beginning of this call, you were saying, I think one of the things you love in life is people that take massive action. And I don't even remember where I found the purchase and sale agreement documents and whatnot. And, you know, they might've been the wrong ones or from the wrong state or whatnot. But this is somebody that wants to sell. I'm going to learn this as I go. And then, you know, taking it to title and escrow and getting their help, making sure all our T's are dotted and T's are crossed and I's are dotted.
There you go.
it ended up working out. But I just wanted to mention one other thing. While we're sitting there out at the house, you know, there was a micro relationship that got started, and he ended up sending me home with a bunch of bacon and like sausage that he handmade. I don't know. It was kind of bizarre, but it was fun as well to, you know, make that human connection, get them the cash they needed, get him out from underneath that mortgage debt. And then we were able to turn around. Do you remember this? I don't know if you remember this, but we had also started simultaneously marketing to other landlords in our area, calling, texting, our voicemail drops. I can't remember what it was, but point is a local landlord that we already knew from church actually had responded, and somehow we connected the dots that he was looking for more houses to flip or short-term rentals. And so it was all so fast from finding that guy on Facebook Marketplace to being able to reassign that contract to a local flipper who had a ton more experience than us.
That's right. Yeah. No, it's amazing how fast that can happen. And sorry, I'm just stuck on the you had free bacon and I didn't know about it. That's just I don't remember that part, so not cool.
It's one of the perks of being in Washington instead of Idaho, you big jerk.
I was there at the time. I lived
What?
there.
You were? Yes. And I didn't share the bacon with you?
That's the point.
I'm the jerk.
Everybody knows. Yes.
I'm the jerk.
That is the point. And that's all I wanted to say today. Thanks for watching, everybody. No. You're totally right. So the fear can be so it can just stop you in your tracks. You can do a ton of research. You can watch thousands of hours of YouTube. You can have a doctorate on YouTube, but never apply it.
Tiny froze.
Oh, I'm here. Can you see me? Did you freeze? Did we both freeze?
Looks like we both froze, but now we're both back. How about that?
We're back.
We're back.
Well, that was like the best thing I'd said the whole time. Not really.
Yeah. No, you said where I lost you was you had said fear can freeze you. You can freeze up.
It totally. See? And like that, my screen froze. All right. It can also freeze your computer. So it can totally freeze you from taking action. But what I love and hate. It's a personality thing that you have of like, I'm doing it, and you jump. And I'm like, but what about those, all that stuff? And you're like, we'll figure it out. And then
we're gonna have to do an episode. We're gonna have to do an episode on visionaries and integrators. Yes, because you're a fantastic integrator, and we're learning about that along the way. And I would have never really called myself a visionary, just because it sounds kind of like, I don't know, it sounds kind of pompous thing to say.
Yeah, it does.
And I don't feel all that visionary when I'm taking massive action, but it's just sometimes it feels like, like you're saying, just I think when you're working in your sort of your core strengths, it's invisible to you, or it can be more invisible to you. So I definitely want to break down the numbers on this too, because I'm sure people are curious how much we made off our first deal, don't you think?
I think so. Yeah. All right. So while you have those numbers up, I'm just going to follow up with a takeaway I want people to have here is take action, even if you don't have a perfect plan. And combine that with find a mentor and work with great people. Right. So if you are watching someone like us or someone on YouTube, and you kind of understand the basic things, like don't just go into this with no research. That's stupid. But do your research, but then take action. JV with somebody, joint venture, like partner up, mentor, find someone who's doing this and go like, hey, how can I serve you? Can I take anything off your plate just to learn? That's a great way to get into this. Also, finding an investor-friendly title company. There are title officers and escrow officers that are just wonderful human beings who get it. Like their world's confusing, and they spend all their time explaining it to people who will never care as much as you do and aren't really interested. So if you just show some interest and like, hey, I really want to do this right. I want to do a great job, and I care to do this the way it's supposed to be done. Can you teach me? Oh
Right.
man, in my experience, the majority of them will be like, yeah, absolutely. So here's how this, and they'll
That's
just walk
huge.
you through it.
That's
And so
huge.
those are resources you don't think about as being like educators or trainers or coaches, but they're there.
Right.
And
Right.
that surprised me. That totally surprised me. And I was like, oh, they're going to be mad that we don't know what we're doing or we don't have the right paperwork. And it wasn't like that at all.
Absolutely. And I think finding a friend that had done 20 flips the year before
Hmm.
and who could recommend a wholesale
Yep.
and flip and investing friendly title company. If you don't
Hmm.
have that yet, where could they go? I think, if Facebook investor group in your local market.
Yep. Yeah.
Hey,
I would
newbie here, newbie
exactly.
here. Anybody
Yep.
got who's their favorite title company for wholesaling or investing?
Exactly. I've seen that done and that works just because when someone finds a great title officer or whatever,
Yeah,
in general, at least they might not share that person's name, but they'll share the company's name.
that's right. That's right.
But great,
That's right.
awesome. Well, let's jump into some numbers. Um,
Yep.
all right, so this thing obviously wasn't listed. It's an off-market
Right.
deal. It was for
Right.
rent. So how did you approach him? Did you say, "Hey, what do you want for this?" Did you throw out a number? How did that start?
Well, we should definitely tag this guy, but the great Jerry Norton has a tremendous series of content on how he comps properties that are on market. And so I just kind of followed his breakdown my first time. So anybody who's watching this and wants to learn how to comp properties for what the after repair value is, ARV, definitely go follow Jerry Norton. Jerry, kudos to you. I appreciate all your educational material. So once I had the address from him, which was actually listed on Facebook, and he confirmed it, I was able to just plug it into Redfin and Zillow and look at comps that were nearby, similar bedroom count, similar square feet. And
Hmm.
I saw that it was probably on the retail market, if it were fixed up, it would probably be worth 220, 230, that range.
Hmm.
And when I sat down and spoke with him, he and I just went back and forth on what he needed to get out of it, kind of how much he owed. If for me, I don't really like asking people how much do you owe on this because I think that puts them on the defensive. But
Yeah.
if you are, coming at it as if we're on the same side of the table, like we're working on
Hmm.
this together, then the
Yeah.
question that I love is, okay, let's say I were the buyer for this property. How
Hmm.
much
Hmm.
of a mortgage do I need to pay off to get
Hmm.
into this deal?
Yep.
And so that puts them on your side helping. And I believe he just let me know how much they owed and how much he needed to get out of it, how much cash he needed. I think I probably asked him, how much cash do you need in your pocket to
Hmm.
get this done?
Hmm.
I remember I wasn't able to, or I remember I offered to him after I did my calculation, 70% less the ARV minus rehab costs.
Okay.
We can go into that another time. So like 230 times 0.7 is 70%. And then I created a rehab estimate. And I was a dummy. I didn't really know. So I may have been making it up in the moment, but I came to a number that was a little bit below the amount that he wanted.
Hmm.
But it
Hmm.
made sense to him. He was still going to have cash in his pocket. And again, that pain of like paying that mortgage, that extra
Hmm.
mortgage while he had rent
Hmm.
and a pregnant wife over here, for him,
Yep.
it was worth it. So I think a lot of people, like realtors especially, um, get offended by this idea of wholesaling, like you're ripping people off. But the reality is he had more money in his pocket than he would have a few days before. And he was willing to trade um, some of that equity for speed and cash.
Right. Right. Yep. That's a massive I think mental block some people can have, like, oh gosh, buying it for cash, or aren't I taking advantage of people? And so you can take advantage of people. Don't do that. Don't be a jerk.
Right. Right.
Respect people. This is important. But on the other side, money isn't always the most important thing in a seller's
That's
life.
true.
Like
That's true.
a lot of times they've got an extenuating circumstance, they've got a health issue, they've got a family issue, they've got a huge life change or transition or of some kind. They've got to move across the country now, or someone got sick. So it's not always like you're not their real estate agent. You are not working on behalf of them. You
Right. And
are
yeah, that's true.
buying
And
the property, saying,
that's
"Hey,
right.
I can do this if that works for you." And we always
Right.
go for what? A win-win, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is
Mm-hmm.
not something that you high pressure sell somebody. You go, "Hey, here's your options. Here's what we can do for you." If that makes sense,
Yep.
awesome. If it doesn't, no problem.
Absolutely. Well, and you're hinting around something that I've really appreciated about
Mm.
Pace Morby.
Yeah.
He'll let people know if he's not the right buyer. I'm probably not the right buyer,
Yep.
and if he can find a way still to work with them to get what
Right.
they need, great. But he'll let them know right off the bat if he's not the right buyer for that property.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think that pullback allows people to feel. Nobody wants to be sold, but everybody wants to, do a deal that makes sense for them. And so
Yep.
if you give people the right to say no,
Mm-hmm.
that's another thing I've learned from Pace and his team is getting those upfront agreements where you're like, hey, I just want you to know it's okay if you say no. And I would ask from you that it would be okay if I say no to you. Are we both in
Absolutely.
agreement? That's really
Absolutely.
powerful.
Pace Morby, for those who might not know the name, is with what organization?
Oh,
Sub two.
Pace Morby. Yeah,
So,
he's got about 10 different businesses, but
you're my
he is
my hat here.
The Pace
Sub
Morby.
Sub two. Pace Morby, the
There you
man.
go. Sub
Yes,
two.
the one, the only.
That's right.
Yeah. No, he's awesome, and just the creative genius that he has in real estate to be able to solve problems, handle objections, work with people, and really almost help them get out of their own way. I love
Right.
that. It's these
Right.
ninja skills that are subtle, and you're, if you use them for good, if you realize you can help somebody and get them
That's
out of
right.
a hard place that they're at or they're gonna be and they don't even realize it, you can
Right.
help maneuver them to that point. And that
That's
pullback
right.
is a phenomenal tool of like, probably not the
Ri-
right buyer for you. Oh well,
it is. No, it totally is, and it gives people permission to ask questions like why. So we got
Yep.
it under contract for 127.
Yep.
Went to
Okay.
that flipper that we had connected with through our other marketing to
Mm-hmm.
other landlords in town, and assigned it for 150. Again, the ARV was like 220, 230, somewhere in that range, according
Mm-hmm.
to my rookie estimates. So he was
Mm-hmm.
getting a deal. The guy that was selling got cash in his pocket,
Yep.
take care of his family, got rid of the mortgage that was over his head. And so we
Mm-hmm.
made a $22,000 spread on our very first deal from a free lead from Facebook Marketplace.
Boom. That's huge. That's so huge. That's an awesome win for everybody. I love that because, yeah, like we've said at length, a win for this guy. He was in a bad spot, and he didn't really have the emotional. He was working a full time job, had a new family, and he didn't really have the
Baby on the
capacity
way.
to go fix it up, list it, do all that stuff. Like he needed a solution pretty fast. So to
Yep.
be able to come in, go find him, he didn't have to come find us. Go find him. You went and approached him, offer him that solution. And I remember that guy was stoked. Like I got text messages from him while I was doing the closing process, and he was just so appreciative.
Yeah.
Um, that was really cool. That was really
Right.
impactful. Anything else? Any other learning lessons you want folks to take away from this one in particular, or anything that
I
surprised
think
you
you've already
about it?
said. I think you've already said it. Taking massive action and
Yep.
find a deal, find a buyer. You can do both at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Our process of going and looking for deals or
Yep.
sellers resulted in us finding our buyer. And so, but that was because we took massive action. And once we knew this was our next path in
Yep.
terms of business ownership and business growth, we just got after it. And so just
Yep.
being creative and taking action.
I would say to add on to that, a couple unexpected benefits of taking massive action like that was the connection and relationship with the title company and realizing we
Right.
didn't have to know everything before we started. So that was a pleasant surprise.
Yes.
Also, when we had a live deal, that helped us build a relationship with an investor
Right.
who's bought how many deals from us now? Like 8?
Many.
Many of them. And so that in like 6 months, like fast. So I would encourage people out there. There's more benefit from taking massive action than you could possibly know upfront.
Yep.
So
Right.
just trust I've heard this before. Trust the process and do it. It's so true. There's no substitute for it. So, well, dude, great job. I'm proud of you. That is awesome. There's many deals ago. There's so much more to talk about.
Yep.
I love the idea of a visionary integrator podcast. We're definitely going to have to do
Yes.
that. That's going to be
Yes, we
fun.
will.
Awesome. All right. Well, good job, man. That was our first deal review
That's right.
podcast.
Many more to come. Many more to come. And I just want anybody who's watching this to know, our purpose behind doing this is not to show how cool we are, because we're just normal guys. We're dads living in the Pacific Northwest, but really to demonstrate what's possible by taking massive action, and to get you, and to encourage you through documenting our process. It's good for me too, just to remember back through where we've been, but to document our process, to help you on your journey to wealth and independence as a real estate investor, and for us to re-rehearse the lessons we've learned. It's just going to be fun, Daniel, walking through this with you. Daniel, Tiny Ford.
Who's Daniel?
Freaking Tiny Ford. Nate the Great
Yep.
Conant and Daniel Tiny Ford.
That's right. That's me. The little guy.
For people who don't know you yet, Daniel, I think you're 7 feet tall. And so that's why the name Tiny is actually pretty funny, you guys, just so you know.
It's hilarious.
It's hilarious.
Yeah. People probably just think I'm a small guy and be like, what's the deal? Our logo is going to make it all clear. It's going to be
That's
perfect.
right.
It's going to be so clear. There's so much this has legs, man, because the stuff that we're dealing out right now in our business with teams and hiring people and just all the different levels that there are to this. I am stoked to make this approachable for people who are just starting out, who have a full-time job. They want to get into it. They know real estate's something to do, but they don't know how to get, I'm stoked. There's so much to talk about. There's so much to learn and so much to share. Like this, we're not experts, but we're doing a podcast. Just take action. Like who knows what amazing things are going to come from taking massive action and doing a podcast. I can't wait, but I know they're coming.
That's right.
I know they're coming.
That's right.
All right. Till next time.
I'm
Tiny.
And I'm Nate.
We'll see you on the next one.
Sound effect here.
Yeah. Enter cool transition now.